The UN Security Council held an emergency meeting on Sunday to discuss Israel's plans to take control of Gaza City. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu defended his government's decision to expand a military offensive in Gaza despite international condemnation. Ukraine and Europe have presented Washington with a counter-proposal for a ceasefire ahead of talks between the US and Russia.
As many world leaders hail the new US-brokered peace deal between Armenia and Azerbaijan, Iran worries over foreign intervention. Extreme heat waves soar across Europe as 6 wildfires burn through the Spanish region of Leon.
The UN Security Council held an emergency meeting on Sunday to discuss Israel's widely condemned plans to take control of Gaza City. The Assistant Secretary General for Europe, Central Asia and the Americas warned the plan would further endanger the lives of the Palestinian population and the Israeli hostages.
If these plans are implemented, they will likely trigger another calamity in Gaza, reverberating across the region and causing further forced displacements, killings and destruction, compounding the unbearable suffering of the population.
Israel's representative reiterated Prime Minister Netanyahu's earlier statement to establish security control in Gaza with an independent governing authority. The Palestinian representative said such a plan would prevent independent Palestinian statehood and that Israel should support Palestinian Authority governance in Gaza. The United States defended Israel, saying it has the right to decide what's best for its security. It called allegations of genocide in Gaza false. Called by Denmark, France, Greece, the United Kingdom and Slovenia, all members of the Council supported the talks except the United States, according to media reports. Ukraine and Europe have presented Washington with a counter-proposal for a ceasefire ahead of talks between the US and Russia, according to 2 European officials cited by the Wall Street Journal. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky rejected the idea of ceding territory following U.S. suggestions that a deal with Russia could involve swapping territories. Several European leaders have come to Zelensky's side, demanding that Ukraine and Europe be included ahead of planned talks between U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin. Meanwhile, Russian attacks on Ukrainian cities continue. On Saturday, several people were injured following Russian airstrikes on Kharkiv, and 2 people were killed in Kherson. The Kremlin's bigger army is also slowly advancing deeper into Ukraine as it grinds on with its war. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu defended his government's decision to expand a military offensive in Gaza despite international condemnation of the plans. Israel said on Friday it plans to take over Gaza City in another escalation of the war. Netanyahu asserted that the goal was to demilitarize Gaza and to insert a non-Israeli transitional authority there after the war ends.
Our goal is not to occupy Gaza. Our goal is to free Gaza, free it from Hamas terrorists. The war can end tomorrow if Gaza, or rather if Hamas lays down its arms and releases all the remaining hostages.
Netanyahu's government is facing increasing pressure from its allies, UN aid groups, and protesters in Israel to end the war. They say another major ground operation would almost certainly exacerbate the humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza, while also putting the lives of the remaining hostages at risk. Netanyahu said Israel would put in place a 3-step plan to ensure more aid enters Gaza, including increased distribution points, safe corridors, and aid drops.
Armenia and Azerbaijan's neighboring countries react to the new US-brokered peace deal signed on Friday. The deal includes a corridor planned in the Caucasus, which Iran has said it will block, citing concerns over potential negative consequences of any foreign intervention near its borders. Meanwhile, Armenians are caught between hope and distrust.
Բայց սպասելիքները չեն կարող լինել դրական, որտեղ հատկապես 2020 թվականից հետո Ադրբեջանի հետ կնքված բոլոր հայտարարությունները, Ադրբեջանի հետ եղած բոլոր հանդիպումներում ձեռք բերված պայմանավորվածությունները միշտ ավելի վատ են եղել Հայաստանի համար, դրա համար որևէ դրական ակնկալի ես չունեմ։
Baku residents are a little more hopeful.
Və bütün təhlükəsizliyi Amerika öz üzərinə götürür. Bununla da demək olar ki, sakitlik, əmin-amanlıq yaradacaq. Tez bir müddətdə sərhədlərimiz açılacaq, Ermənistanla normal münasibətlər yaradacaq.
Russia, Georgia's opposition, and Georgian Prime Minister Irakli Kobakhidze have all welcomed the deal, describing it as the beginning of a new era of stability and economic development. The EU and the UN have hailed the deal as key to lasting peace. Extreme heat waves soar across Europe, including Spain, France and Portugal. In Spain's northwest region of Leon, 6 wildfires are burning, with 2 reportedly close to inhabited areas, forcing people to evacuate. Meanwhile, Spain's Gran Canaria is hit with its hottest day on Sunday, with temperatures up to 43 degrees. On top of that, the island is anticipating being hit by a hot, dry wind from the Sahara Desert. According to France's main weather forecaster, 42 departments are on orange heat alerts. Temperatures are predicted to peak on Monday and Tuesday, reaching up to 42 degrees, placing 46 areas on heat alerts. Portugal's civil protection has put the state on maximum alert due to the heat and the increased risk of fire.
Firefighters continued battling flames on Italy's Mount Vesuvius on Sunday as a wildfire that started Friday continued to burn. Satellite images of the Gulf of Naples showed the fire was visible from space, with a long white plume rising from one side of the volcano. Since the early hours of Sunday, 6 planes and 4 helicopters have been involved, in addition to 15 teams of civil protection volunteers. Vesuvius National Park authorities said the volcano's trail network had been closed for safety reasons and to facilitate firefighting and cleanup operations in the areas affected.
"52 exceptionally rare lizards from the Aeolian Islands were hatched at the reptile house of Rome's Biopark Zoo as part of a conservation project aimed at preventing their extinction. Lizards from the islands are considered an endangered species classified among those at highest risk of extinction in the Mediterranean basin. The tiny reptiles born at Rome Zoo are only a few centimetres long and have to be cared for in a special nursery within a restricted access area of the reptile house. The zoo said they are not yet visible to the public as they need an environment that preserves their tranquility in order to grow. It said their hatching was an extraordinary event which took place in the framework of the European-funded project Life Eolizard, which aims at reducing the risk of extinction of endangered species. The program combines conservation in a controlled environment and in nature. The lizards will be introduced to the Sicilian archipelago next spring.
Dante's Kania is one of the most important cultural institutions of the Greek island of Crete. This year's 15th anniversary took place from July 21 until August 2. The festival included 21 performances, 12 seminars, 5 workshops, 2 exhibitions, and other activities. One of them was Trilogy for Old Time's Sake, which explores the complex relationship between time, aging, and memory loss.
It's a very difficult subject, and I don't think that as a 30-year-old, I don't know what it's like to have dementia, of course, but I know what it's like to be on the other side of it. And it's a disease that affects so many people around the world. I think the number is something like 50 million, but it's set to rise to 150 million in a very short amount of time in the next few years. And there is no cure, and that's why I also felt strongly about talking about it in my work. And it's in talking and in human interaction that we witness dementia the most.
Helen Wenzel's dance company, La Rock, has been to the dance festival several times. With the current Escape, the Austrian group invites us on a special journey in which we perceive exaggeration and collapse. The dancers reveal on stage a world of suffocation where everyone is looking for an outlet of freedom.
When I did Escape, it's quite a long time ago, it was before Corona, I had the feeling that I stuck in a... Can you imagine these little animals who are running in a wheel? You have to somehow functioning the whole time. And there was a moment that I thought, okay, how to change my life? I think we have to find places and times where we stop to do something, like meditation, yoga, whatever, I don't know, whatever, or to see the sea, or to go on the sea, or to go for a swim, whatever. I think it's a very important thing to think about, also times where we don't work, I would say.
A dancer, a projection screen, a live camera, a set of silicone abs, and a question that hovers in the air for an hour. How does a body produce masculinity?
My source of inspiration was kind of my queer feminist approach. I worked from that perspective for a few years, and I felt the desire to understand masculinity more in order to understand the dynamics of gender and patriarchy.
Dance Days Kenya is a contemporary dance festival with a strong social and political focus.